Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by Wistia. Take control of your video marketing with powerful tools and analytics built specifically for business. Go to wistia.com/twist to get your free Wistia account today. And by Citrix GoToMeeting. Meeting is believing. Visit gotomeeting.com, click on the Try It Free button, and sign up for a 30-day trial.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis, and on today's This Week in Startups, we are live from Samsung's Global Innovation Center in Mountain View, and I did a Q&A with the audience and asked Jason, if you will. And we handled three really great, and we had a dozen of them, but you're going to see three really great ones in this episode that I wanted to highlight. One of them is somebody had an idea for a reverse periscope. What is reverse periscope? Well, it's basically crowdsourced journalism. You can see all the people who are in Mountain View or San Francisco or in Pac Heights and say, can somebody go make a live video of what's going on this street corner? Really mind-blowing, right? People opt in, and then you can click on those different groups of people and ask them to go do journalism for you or go do live feeds. Really mind-blowing. I really love this idea. I might invest with it. I'm going to meet with the founders after, and you're going to see the interaction. That could result in me investing in my next unicorn. Also, somebody asked me, how do I pick founders to invest in? And I gave it a lot of thought, and I think I nailed the answer because I talked about the grittiness that it takes to succeed, and also why execution in the early days of your startup are so important, and how to hack your early execution to make yourself fundable. Because most people are not fundable. And if you get that early execution stuff right, you will be fundable. It's a really great hack, and it's a really great interaction with the founder. And then finally, one founder came up with an incredibly complex, convoluted, but well-designed product. There's a lot of life in there. And I talked her down from the ledge. I said, hey, you've got 17 features in this product. Which one do you love best? Which one do you think customers love best? Can we figure out what they want most and then make that excellent? Because you're in an app with a screen size that is tiny. It's the size of it's less than the size of a paperback. All you have is the back of a paperback for people to interact with. Let's do one thing right and stop with the Michigana 17 different things you're trying to do. This is an important lesson for all entrepreneurs, including myself. This is a great episode. Thank you to our friends from Samsung, David Un, and everybody who hosted us. What an amazing time we had at your Global Innovation Center. And we plan on doing an episode of This Week in Startups there quarterly. So if you want to get one of those tickets to come, just make sure you follow our Twitter handle at TWI Startups. You're going to enjoy this episode.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hey everybody, it's This Week in Startups, and we're here at Samsung's Global Innovation Center, and we've got a live audience here, and we're going to do some live Q&A and some pitches from founders. So let's get it started. Our first group is here. Tell me your name.
Hi, my name is Praveen.
Praveen. Okay, and then who's this guy over here? Wow.
This is Jay.
Okay,
we want to make
Jay?
this a personal experience, yes.
Jay and Praveen. Okay, so what are you doing? Show me what you're doing.
Okay, cool. So we are from Pulse Labs, and our mission is to help shoppers save time when they're trying to choose the right product for their needs.
Okay.
Because you see that more than 60% of the millennial population is spending hours researching online, and they spend about 1 to 6 months thinking about the product before they buy. So we call this the time to decision, and we want to reduce the time to minutes. So we're going to show you how. So I'm going to do a little bit of song and dance here. So what we have here is that Jay has a barcode scanner, and assume that he's in the camera store, he's looking for a camera, he has a budget of $1,000, he cares about taking good pictures, but he cares about the video quality a lot, right? So instead of opening up his laptop, opening a bunch of tabs and spending hours of research, he just simply opens up his Pulse app and scans the barcode of the camera in front of him.
Okay, so he scanned the barcode. He scanned the barcode, it gave him some information, and it tells you what people are saying. Picture quality, professional use, automatic modes, features, noise, dust resiliency, and speed. I didn't know dust resiliency was a...
Yeah.
That's the thing.
So basically what has happened is that we've gone ahead and aggregated all the opinions across the internet, and we're actually summarizing what people are saying in terms of clear, simple language, rather than the technical jargon people are getting overwhelmed with.
Okay. Very cool. Any other information? Any other things you want to add before I give you feedback?
This is just a taste of what we're trying to do. Our goal is to actually help the buying process, because we see a lot of apps that are focused on the end transaction, which is the coupons, deals, and everything else.
Right.
But there's that 1 to 6 month intent to purchase that people are not thinking about. And that's where we want to help, like asking friends and family for advice, reaching out and saying, hey, Jason has bought this camera, let me ask him, etc. And we also want to ask simple questions like, hey, find me a diaper that holds through the night, or find me a vacuum cleaner that's good for rugs, cleaning rugs, etc.
Got it.
So that's the kind of thing we want to go after.
Okay, so you've identified some potential areas where people could use some help.
Yes.
The one you were talking about is, hey, you're in a camera store and you want to know. And so there's really two classes of purchases. There's considered purchases, and then there's impulse purchasing. You know this, I'm sure. And people have been hard at work at these issues for many, many decades, actually. So if you look at what are the considered purchases in people's lives, it starts with a home, then it goes down to college education, then it goes down to cars, and then it goes down to major appliances and vacations, and then it goes to whatever, clothes, suits, whatever. And then after that, people just tend to be impulse buyers, right? So I think building a consumer product that allows people to quickly make a decision is kind of Amazon's business, right? And they've got a lot of people working on that. So basically, by choosing to help people make a decision, you're choosing to compete with Amazon. Now, how does Amazon make money? Well, they actually sell the product. And the fact is, Amazon doesn't make any money on selling products. They kind of sell things at a very low margin. So you've chosen to go up against Amazon. You've chosen to go up against Amazon in the part of their business where they lose money. In other words, this is like going into a gunfight with like a butter knife.
Right.
It's going to be hard.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean that there's not something there. It means you're going to have to figure out a way to win without going directly against Amazon.
Right.
And in fact, I'm fairly certain that the reviews that you're pulling this information from are through Amazon.
It's actually across retailer APIs, Amazon, like web crawl. Basically, we honor search engine robots.txt.
Got it. So you're doing a web crawl across sites that have reviews. Yeah. Those sites that have reviews are probably not making money either, which is a long way of saying people actually... even though these are considered purchases, they may not actually have this as a hard problem. They may be okay with the solution they have. And so I think you've picked a problem where it's going to be very hard to differentiate. And meta problem-solving sites, there is some precedent for it, in fact. Do you know of any other sites that are doing a meta review package kind of service? Can you name a couple? Because I can tell you a couple.
Yeah, so there's an app called Consumer.
Okay.
There's actually a company out of Europe, Alatest. They're actually trying to do this.
Great. So people have tried to do it. None of us have heard of those two companies. But has anybody here ever heard of Rotten Tomatoes? Raise your hand if you have. Okay. And raise your hand if you've heard of Metacritic. Okay. So a lot of people have heard about this. I was on the board of a company actually called Gadget, GDGT,
right,
that did this for consumer electronics, which is a big considered purchase. And they wound up selling to AOL. It wasn't a huge success. It wasn't a failure. It was somewhere in between, like a double maybe. So it's really hard. And you have people who are working in verticals to solve these problems. So you either are going to have to pick a vertical and do really well in that vertical, or you're going to have to be an enabling technology and maybe sell it to other people.
Right.
Which sounds like you're probably going to go for the enabling thing.
Right.
Because the design of the app is terrible. But you didn't really work on the design. You're working on the natural language processing and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I think you have something with the natural language processing. And if you do, then what you might want to do is be offering that natural language processing maybe as a service to other places.
Right.
But then, that's a really... If you do that version of the business, keep the burn low so you can iterate on the product and rev on the product with 3 or 4 people in a low burn culture. And then you're not limited to reviews. You could be doing any number of things. You could hit Yelp reviews, et cetera. So I think there's a lot of the road and the sort of startup graveyard is filled with review sites. And it turns out a lot of us just make decisions and then return the stuff we don't like, no questions asked. So you have that sort of working against you. 15 years ago, review sites seemed really important because of this issue of returns. But since crazy Tony Hsieh was like, yeah, just return your shoes anytime. Like, challenge us to when you return them. Like, he'll return them like 2 years later and still return them and take it.
Right.
So you have some maniac like that who sets a precedent of like, it doesn't matter what you buy. You can return it no matter what. Oh, you don't have the box. You don't have the free. Remember, like you used to go to the Wiz in New York or Circuit City, and they'd be like, "You actually don't have the warranty card. We can't accept it." And they would like hand you back the thing you wanted to return.
Right.
Now you don't have that fear, so it makes actually the fear that consumers had even less. So you seem like smart guys. The natural language stuff is strong. I would find a client with a problem, and build something for that client. Because right now you might be in a position where you're building against a soft problem without a client, right? And a lot of times entrepreneurs say they build there's a soft problem in the world, they talk themselves into it, and it doesn't actually work for them. So find a client might be a really good way to do this and see what they need and what they're willing to pay for. If nobody's willing to pay for what you're making and they are in that space, they're a Zappos or whatever, and they're not willing to pay for it, maybe there's nothing there.
Right.
And then you can put these two really intelligent minds to another problem. Okay.
Sure.
Good job.
Thanks a lot.
Big round of applause.
Yeah.
All right. Hey everybody, let me take a moment to tell you about a product I love and use every day. It's video hosting from Wistia, W-I-S-T-I-A, Wistia. It is awesome. And who uses it? MailChimp, Moz, HubSpot, Zendesk, Herman Miller, Sam Adams, and of course, This Week in Startups. They've got 140,000 customers, and they are growing like a weed. Now, why do we use it? Well, if we use a free service like YouTube, we have all YouTube's ads and collaterals and garbage, and it looks terrible, and it's not customizable. So it looks bad, and everything that YouTube does is in service of increasing their metrics, not your metrics. Well, what are your metrics as a business? Well, for me, it's collecting emails. 2, it's having people on my domain, my site, making it look beautiful, not having that ugly thing that comes up at the end of like a YouTube video that shows all the different videos of other people that I don't want to send my users to. I want, when the video ends, for them to watch another episode of This Week in Startups. I can control all of that with Wistia. That's why I use it. And it works perfectly on Facebook and Twitter with the cards, and you can play it natively on those platforms. It's gorgeous. And it'll give you a ton of support. You want to take control of your video. Video is a huge asset, and you want to do it professionally. The analytics program is amazing. You can see on a user-by-user basis how long they're watching, and if they rewound and watch a section twice, all this kind of great stuff. Tons of support, super easy to use. And it's built, a lot of their new tools are built for marketers, so collecting emails and that kind of stuff. And you don't have YouTube or Vimeo doing that kind of stuff. Those platforms have their own goals, which is selling ads and keeping people on their platforms and stealing those users from your platform. Start your 2-week trial for free on Wistia, wistia.com/twist. No credit card is required because they're so confident that you're going to love the service like I do. And you can upload as many videos as you like. Wistia.com/twist, W-I-S-T-I-A, Wistia.com/twist. I love the product. I love the team. And it's been fantastic for us. We got control of our own videos again, and we are now collecting emails every day, dozens of emails every week, hundreds of emails every year, thousands of emails to build our direct relationship. That is not have an intermediary between it, telling us how we can talk to you, our fans. We have a direct relationship. It's brilliant. I love Wistia. All right, let's get back to this amazing episode. Who's next? Who's next? Okay. A question, or is this just a question? Okay, great. Question. Good.
Hi, Jason. This is a forward-looking question. I've been working with the startup ecosystem for a couple of years. I know you've been around a lot longer. And it's really fun, and it's exciting innovation and money and viral growth. And I've become involved with a project that is a little different. It's a pro bono thing. It has to do with helping children in Africa and things like that. And today I realized, wow, there's two worlds. There's this startup world of all this amazing technology and energy and creativity, and then there's this seemingly separate world of people who are concerned about reaching out and making life better for the folks who are struggling. And I'm wondering, what kind of bridge can we build, or cultural awareness, or is there maybe a maturation shift in startup world where we start to take that stuff out and democratize it and help people?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think if you look at millennials, anybody here under 30 years old? A couple of you millennials. These are some weird people. Like
my daughters.
The Gen Xers went to work, and we were like, well, we just want to we're going to work for you until we can overthrow you, and we'll get a job, but maybe when we're 30 or 40, we'll overthrow you and start our own companies. Millennials are kind of like, they walk in and they're like, why should I work for you? And what's the mission of this company? Yeah, I don't actually agree with the mission or your philosophy, and I don't want to do this. So what that means is this young group of people will actually take less money to work at a company with a social mission or a mission that is aligned with them. And if it's not aligned with them, they'll literally come to work with you for 8 weeks and then say, yeah, this is not personally fulfilling for me, and I'm going to have to leave today. And they literally will not put 2 more weeks into it. They wouldn't even give 2 weeks notice in a lot of cases, because they're so ingrained with this idea that their personal satisfaction and the mission and what they're doing is so precious and time is so precious that they will be unprofessional and not even give a 2-week notice, right? Now, I sound like I'm dissing them, but in fact, they may actually have it right. Life is short, and it does matter what the mission of the company is. A lot of us Gen Xers and certainly baby boomers were sold this weird bill of goods. You have to like go to work for a company and like, hey, maybe you'll hit it, but just try to keep a roof over everybody's head. That's what's important. So they've kind of figured that out. What that means is there's an opportunity, if you want those very talented millennials to come work for you, to align your company with a social mission. So for example, the Launch Company, which does This Week in Startups, Launch Festival and all the stuff, and the Launch Fund, has a pretty simple mission, which I'll ask my staff to repeat back to me many times, and that is, hey, we are here to support founders and inspire innovation. So when people come to work at the company, it's very clear what the goal is, and it's kind of a noble mission, right? We want to inspire people to be innovative, and we want to support them if they are being innovative as a founder. And when I put that in place like 2 years ago, boy, did everything align. We had less turnover. We had more people excited. The people who were there were motivated. They didn't need to be managed as much. So a lot of companies are putting this alignment in. And in fact, there's a new business structure called a B corporation. And what a B corporation, has anybody heard of a B corporation? Okay, about half the audience has. And if I did this had anybody heard about this 2 years ago? Okay, you're all lying because it didn't exist. I'm joking, it kind of did exist, but it's a very new thing. A benefit corporation is the same as a for-profit corporation, except they've added to it, and it's only maybe a dozen states or 24 states actually recognize them right now. It's a for-profit company, but they have to state what their mission is, what their purpose is. And then the board of directors is beholden to that mission. And how that is actually executed is kind of unknown, but it's sort of like formalizing the Tom's shoes or the Ben & Jerry's kind of social mission incorporated with it. And so as an angel investor, I frequently have people coming to me, and if they start the pitch with, we're going to, start this great company. It's a company that, helps you get a taxi really fast on your phone. And the great thing is for every, taxi ride that you take, we're going to give one to somebody in a developing country. I'd be absolutely not interested in that business. Because what I find is when people have that like stuff early on in the business, before they've perfected the business, it's almost like we're going to be doing charity when we're poor. It doesn't actually work, and it sort of like it's better to get the stuff aligned first. But that being said, I've invested in one B Corp. It's called Hand Up, which is helping build software for homeless organizations to track homeless people and help them do basically crowdfunding to get themselves out of poverty or help themselves get dentures or a house or a job or a phone or therapy, whatever it is. And so I do think there's something there. And it's happening organically, and there's actually a structure for it.
Can I ask a specific follow-up, which would be, do you think there's a place for some kind of hybrid accelerator that bridges these worlds? So folks who are interested in startups, and maybe they're excited more about a technology or a generic concept, and they haven't discovered these opportunities to apply it in a most meaningful way. Maybe an institution or some kind of special accelerator could fill the gap.
And in fact, there is one. It's called Tummel, and it exists in the city. And Hand Up came out of it and a couple of other companies. And they're trying to do a social mission with it, along with a social mission for a city along with the startup. So they're actually accepting people based on that. And there's actually a venture capital firm called the Social Capital Partnership. That's run by a good friend of mine, Chamath Palihapitiya, who's been on the program a bunch of times. And he works on education, health, and finance, but he looks at is there a social mission here too? So not solely, but so there are people who are building those institutions that keep this in mind. The one thing you want to do as a founder, though, is not flag yourself as somebody who is like a hippie, and you care more about the social mission than you do about making money. Because if the VCs and the investors think, oh my God, you're kind of cavalier about the business side before you have a business, they're going to be like,
Right.
I may want to go to their benefit dinner, but I don't want to be on their board and invest in them. So I think you got to be a marauder pirate like Bill Gates or Zuckerberg, and then give your money away after you make a bunch is kind of the high art of doing this. Mm-hmm. But it's a good question. It's a great conversation. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Good questions. Yeah, right there is fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, because you want to show me the thing.
Yeah.
If you want to show it to me, maybe you could stand here, show me, and then Jackie could hold our microphone. Is that possible?
Sure.
Because she wants to show me her product. See?
No.
There you go. Okay. And what's your name? And tell us your product.
I'm Serena Zhu.
Serena Zhu. Got it.
Oh, thanks. And I'm co-founder of a company called TV Duffel. So
TV Duffel.
TV Duffel.
Got it.
So we're looking at purchasable opportunities based on what you're watching, what you're listening to,
Sure.
and just media experiences. The first vertical that we're targeting with our first product is music. So 30 million Americans are traveling every year at least one music festival. On average, it's 903 miles. So we're building a product specifically for them. And what it does is, okay, there's no music playing. But if music was playing, we would identify the artist using automatic content recognition. I'll stop this for now and and then the tour dates would come up, scroll through the list, and click on one of them, and immediately you can see where to get the show tickets. Sorry, network is a little slow.
It's okay.
Here.
I got it.
Okay, so you would see the show tickets, flip around, purchase those. Hotel venues for where you're going to be staying, possibly.
Great. So if I'm listening to Taylor Swift in my car, it might tell me Taylor Swift is going to be at Coachella. It might tell me to stay at the Sheraton in Coachella, and I can purchase the ticket or purchase the thing.
Right. So the point is, all this comes in a very consolidated format, so you get all the information at once. You don't lose out on the best seats because you're sitting there saying, can I afford the flights? Can I afford the hotels? No, all the information comes to you at once, and you just make that one assessment.
Okay, great. So do you have a question, or do you just want general feedback?
General feedback.
Okay, general feedback. So you have this great company, Shazam. I'm assuming you use their API?
No, we're actually partnered with Gracenote.
Okay, so you're partnered with Gracenote to identify the songs, which is great. And then you have an API on the back end, and you're hitting like some of the people who, one of the hotels APIs, and you're hitting one of the, so you're hitting Expedia, and then you're hitting the API for tickets as well. So your Ticketmaster or SeatGeek, I don't know, SeatGeek, perfect. So this is great. You're making a mashup. You didn't have to build all these components. So you're on your journey to figuring it out, and you think you have a user in mind who is this person who's driving, who may want to go to Coachella or something. So whenever you put an and, and a but, and a with into the mission statement of a startup, the harder it is for it to actually succeed, right? So it's like Uber gets you a cab. Google lets you find information. Twitter lets you share your status. Flickr lets you share photos. Instacart gets you Whole Foods delivered to your house. When you start adding the ends and the ends and the ends, it might be getting a little convoluted, right? So here you have a lot of those. And what that means is, okay, you're listening to a song. I have to remember to have my app open and do that. And it's going to tell me where they're playing, and I'm going to get a hotel room and know the price. And you're not solving one problem here. You're kind of solving the whole package of going to a show. And so I think you have to reduce down and say, what exactly am I solving for here? Not what can I hack together with APIs, but at its core, what are you solving for? So if I asked you, what problem does this solve for a consumer? Tell me in 5 words. Or let's start with 10.
Okay.
5's hard, but go ahead, 10.
For the indecisive.
Hold on. This is for the indecisive. You got 5. Okay, 5 left. You see how hard it is?
Do I have to speak in complete sense?
Do I have to speak in complete sense? So you're done. No, start over and explain to all of us what problem you solve, not the description of the user, the problem you solve. Uber gets you a taxi. Probably wouldn't count as a word, but I'm going to do it. Get a taxi.
Music Double gets you tickets and necessary travel needs for the show.
Okay, it's about 12. And if that is what you do, get you tickets for, well, SeatGeeks get you tickets, and they've got a couple hundred people focused just on that. So you're going to lose that battle. And then you put the and in there, right? And travel for the show. So that's where it starts to break down, because you're not going to get the travel better than Expedia. You're not going to get the show better than SeatGeek. And since you're using the API, and the API is 70% of what they allow, what users can do on their site, right? Nobody puts their whole API out unless you use it blindly. It's always like a, 60%, 70% is good. You're going to be at best 60 or 70% as good as those. And so sometimes when you put two things together that are 60% as good, it makes something that's better than any one thing. But typically if you do that, the smart company is going to figure it out or see you do it, and they're going to then beat you. So I would step back for a second, and maybe you have a kernel, which is, hey, going to a show, one of these music festivals, is something that Americans are doing, right? In a major way. So you have discovered there's a trend over here. How many people here have been to a Coachella-like show, Electric Daisy, Carnival? Jacob, you've been to all these things. Come on, man. Anyway, that was about half the audience, and this is geeks, right? So I would start there. And did you do user interviews with the people who went to those? You did?
Yep.
You sure you did?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I'm a poker player. I know if you're lying.
All right. I will say not as many as I want to.
Okay. Because I get that. Okay. So what you probably should do is step back and really do user interviews. Find somebody who's been to 5 shows, pay them $50 to come and put a lab coat on and say, hey, I'm interviewing people about this. I'm doing a research project. Can I talk to you? And go through a battery of like 30 questions and do that 5 times and have like questions 20, 25, and 30 be the ones that matter, and really figure out if you can figure out what the pain points are. So the pain points, you might discover something that's a bigger pain point than you slap together a couple of APIs and maybe it would be cool or not. So maybe getting a group together and having group travel services to go, because I remember when I went to Coachella last year, which was, as a 43-year-old at the time going to Coachella with a bunch of 12-year-olds was sort of eye-opening. I was just talking to my brother about this. I was like, wow, this is the year that I went to see a concert and I felt like I was dropping somebody off. It literally happened. But when we went with a group of people, there were a lot of issues about a group of people going, and it tends to be a group thing, right? So getting a group of people together to do a bunch of stuff and getting the tickets. So there might be something there, or there might be some other issue around these shows. So I would step back for a second. It feels to me like you started building before you actually had enough information about what the problems are. How many of these have you been to?
4 maybe.
4 of them? Yeah. So you see there's some energy there. Mm-hmm. And this is what great entrepreneurs do, actually. They see there's something over here, and they just go over there and they kind of start exploring, and they start triangulating. Okay, this is making $100 million a year, and Jay-Z's here, and Rihanna's here, and John Mayer's here, and Taylor Swift is here. Wow, there's a lot of important people here. And oh, wow, it's making a lot of money, and the tickets are a lot of money, and oh, there's hotels being booked. Great, there's something over here. You got to think a little bit deeper and do a little more research as to what you could do, because you've executed pretty well, actually. The app looks pretty good.
Thank you.
But I don't think it actually is going to be remembered by people as solving a singular problem. And that's what we always have to challenge ourselves as entrepreneurs to do, is solve a singular problem and do it really well. Because if you don't, everybody else is out there solving singular problems really well. So if you come in and you solve 4 or 5 problems at once, but not so good, 60% of everybody else, 70% as well as everybody else, then it's easy to forget you. What you want to do is have one single thing you do better than anybody else. And if you look at Uber as an example, it's an easy example to do, so it's very present in mind. They're really, the key metric for them is how many minutes do you get picked up? And everybody here in San Francisco has had this crazy experience of like, I clicked on getting a car, whether it's Lyft or Uber, and it's on the same block. How many people have had on the same block experience? So it's everybody. By the way, in LA and New York, that hasn't happened yet. New York, it's starting to. LA, I don't think it's happened yet. But that experience of like, oh my God, I clicked to get a car and it's here? Like, whoa, right? So that's all they're working on over there. You hear about other projects, they're delivering food, they're doing this. Really, the key product there is how quickly they get picked up. And actually, that's why Uber's beating Lyft so much. And then Sidecar is having all kinds of problems, because Sidecar is, 15 minutes to get picked up, and Lyft is 7 and Uber's 3. Just unconsciously, our habit is, I had this great moment in New York where I called an Uber and it was like 12 minutes. And I was like, what the fuck, 12 minutes? This is fucking crazy. Then I had to catch myself and I was like, oh, if I was trying to get a cab, like I lived in New York, it can take half an hour to get a cab, and getting on the subway can take time. And sometimes the subway, you have to wait for the next train because there's so many people on it. Like, I got to check myself here. Like 12 minutes, pretty fucking good, right? So challenge yourself with that. What can you do singularly that'll be better than everybody else? You're off to a good start. And you know what? The fact that you're doing something and you identified an area, you've now taken yourself from this, I meet 1,000 people who have ideas, right? And they typically suck. But you have actually identified a market that's good. So that's probably 10% of people I meet have identified a real market. You've identified a real market. Now, you have also started executing, and you've executed pretty well. So that's great. Now you're down to like maybe 25 out of 1,000 people I meet. Now you really have to take that next step and have singular focus and be one of the 25 and the one of 1,000 that an angel investor might give money to. But you're very close. Keep going.
All right,
Very good. Big round of applause. Hey, everybody, let me take a moment to thank our friends at Citrix GoToMeeting. I mean, gosh, think about all the time and money and hassle it takes to hold these meetings. My God, you're going down to the valley, up to San Francisco, the traffic, the cost, the flying places. And my recommendation is that you meet your clients and coworkers over Citrix's GoToMeeting. It is a smarter way to meet, and it has beautiful HD faces. Amazing HD quality. I just did an all hands with my team from inside.com, and it was perfect. Everybody had crystal clear VoIP, or they were dialing in, and people were on different platforms. Some people were on their smartphones, some people were on tablets, some people were on desktop computers. And you know what? I have a real thing. I want everybody to have like a headset on, and some people forgot their headsets, and it still sounded really good. It's really the most professional meeting product on the market. It's very affordable. I've had it for many, many years. I think I'm close to a decade using GoToMeeting. And I want you to try it and sign up for GoToMeeting today. You'll get it free for 30 days. You have nothing to lose. So visit GoToMeeting.com, click the Try It Free button. And if you do it now, your first meeting will be up and running in just minutes. And that's GoToMeeting, and your first 30 days are free. It's a fantastic product. You can also, it has a chat room in it, which is also a nice feature. I like to have somebody take notes and put it in the chat room. You can also record the audio from it in case you want to share that with everybody. And you know what? I do that as well. It's a fantastic product. Thank you, GoToMeeting. Let's get back to this amazing episode.
We have a question from AJ. Come on up.
AJ, what's up?
How's it going, Jason?
Good. Oh my God.
Don't worry.
Ladies and gentlemen, that guy.
Those are not real ears. Don't worry.
Okay.
So I got a question for you, but first I wanted to say thank you for doing this. I'm a super fan. I've seen every episode.
Do you have a favorite episode? Or a couple of favorites? You're going to say Sokka first, of course.
The Cambrian genomics guy was awesome.
That dude was amazing.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but it was great. There you
Thank
go.
you. Look at the super fans in the audience. They're like, they're going to tell you the episode number next. But he was pretty good, right?
Oh, yeah.
A very controversial episode.
Yes.
He said a couple of controversial things, which I won't stay on. We won't restate on stage, but you can go watch it and pick out the controversial statements.
So I'm a VR developer and
Groovy.
founder. My team and I go to meetups and conferences all the time, and there's a buzzword emerging in the VR community that I wanted to ask you about.
Okay.
So everybody's passing around this term called the metaverse. Have you heard of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the metaverse, of course, was from science fiction.
Yes.
Was it William Gibson or who actually?
It was Neil Stephenson.
Neil Stephenson,
Snow
right.
Crash, yeah.
Right, sure.
So basically, for anybody who hasn't heard of it, the metaverse is a 3D version of the web. Essentially, it can be much more complex than that, but that's the general idea. So a lot of people in the VR community are convinced that that's what the web is moving toward now that we have VR and AR devices coming out. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on how long do you think that transition is going to take, and have you given any thought to what inside.com would look like if it were in 3D?
So it's a great question. We both know that VR has had 4 or 5 false starts. So we had VRML, which was actually going to be HTML, as VRML. And Mark Pesce and Jaron Lanier and a bunch of old school folks actually created this. And the idea was like, instead of going to the Yahoo directory and clicking on arts and entertainments, photography, and Ansel Adams, you would be like floating through space and you'd grab onto the, file cabinet and open up and then pick the photography folder and then open it up. And it was like, my God, that takes a lot more time. And when you're on a dial-up modem, it was like impossible and the latency sucked. But like people were literally doing this like Second Life on the web, and it was a horrible experience. It was slower, right? So a lot of times these virtual worlds slow you down. And so if it slows you down and it doesn't add that much, then I think it fails, right? So that's, I think, the test is this going to be faster or slower? If it's faster, great. Faster is better. So if I go into a virtual environment and let's say you mentioned inside, news reading became faster, okay, great. But it's not going to be faster. Actually, watching somebody talk about the news or reading the news is faster than being in a virtual environment. And flipping around like this is certainly slower than clicking with a mouse or scrolling with your finger. So I think news, probably not. Now, if I'm reading a news story and I'd be like, wow, I really want to see how they took out Osama bin Laden, okay, it's going to be slower for me to go to the compound and watch the raid from Zero Dark 30 and like actually walk through it and then be in 3D space and fire the gun myself and take out Osama bin Laden, which would be a personal highlight of my career. I would love to have done that. That to me adds massive value, right? So I think how it's applied and is it slower, faster, and more valuable or less valuable is going to be the key. And if you look at the applications that are out there so far, everybody uses the same one, which is you're going to go to the Louvre, right? And walk around 3D space and you're going to see the Mona Lisa. Well, number one, going to see the Mona Lisa is not like a transcendent experience anyway. It's just like this little tiny muddy picture. You wait online and it's okay. The Venus de Milo actually is a pretty amazing epic experience, a big thing. So you got to think like, is going to the Louvre in virtual reality actually better than looking at high-res photos? I don't know, right? So I think what the real challenge is going to be to the VR community is clearly some things are working better this time. The headsets work. The fact that it knows where you are in 3D space, the motion tracking, that stuff is pretty phenomenal. And you don't get nauseous and the resolution's getting better. And gee, the Samsung Edge S6, which is a fantastic phone. I highly recommend the Samsung, endorsed by me. Available on Verizon. But these things are pretty fucking fantastic, aren't they? And like you put them into that gear headset, and all of a sudden it's like, well, that's convenient and it's powerful. So for video games, it's a lock. It's so enjoyable to play video games. For adult entertainment, that's going to be pretty popular, I think. For traveling and like History Channel stuff, I actually think that could be popular. I could see people who were like, I want to, fly like an eagle, or I want to live like a polar bear, and I want to see those 3D environments. That could be really popular. I also think concerts could be really popular, or sporting events where you could be in the huddle, or like you could be standing behind the quarterback and watching that. So there's some applications that are going to work this time around. So I think up until now, VR has been kind of bullshit and it didn't really work. And Oculus obviously has, made some pretty good advances. And we'll hear from 6 Sense later that's made some pretty good advances. So we'll see. I don't think that the metaverse, in that sense of like all the global information is going to be navigated in real time with you walking around, is actually going to be productized. I think it's going to be much more specific. Like, what do you think?
Well, I respectfully disagree because my team develops for a couple of different apps that are already very metaverse-esque, and they are gaining thousands of users of traction already.
Okay, tell me about them.
So one of them is called Janus VR. I'd say it's the furthest along, and it's
Janus, as in Joplin.
Close. It's Janus with a U. It's the Roman god.
Sure.
And so Janus VR is as close to a modern day metaverse as I think we can feasibly build right now.
What would you do in it?
You basically can navigate to anybody's website, but when you get there, you're in a room or outdoors, if you like, an experience that the developer created. And then hyperlinks are not just text anymore; they're portals that you can open up from one person's server to another, and it's very much more a social experience than your typical website today.
Yeah.
But you can experience 2D content and still you can collaboratively engage with all of the content that we regularly engage with on the web.
Yeah, so it sounds interesting. Like I'm at the New York Times and I click on the sports page and I see 7 other people reading about the Knicks getting the 4th draft pick instead of the top 2, and we could all just sit there and cry together.
It's more like you get there and you see somebody's already there,
right,
and reading an article, or more likely watching a video, and then you can chat with them in real time while the video is playing.
So that application of like, hey, I get somewhere and I'm not alone. Like the web is a very lonely experience. You know, like chat. There were actually 2 companies that come to mind. The Palace, which I'm sure you know. The Palace was basically little virtual environments.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody had, at one point, like if you had a website, you had a graffiti wall and you had a palace associated with your domain name. And then there was a great one called Virtual Places. And what Virtual Places, a guy named Udi Shapiro did it out of Israel, was you had a little tour bus and you had an avatar and you would have this plugin for your browser and would put your avatar and my avatar on the page if we're there together. And then when I talked, a little cartoon bubble came up. Then you could jump in my bus or I could jump in your bus and then we can go surf the web. And if I went to another web page, you would come with me.
Nice.
So now I'm in control of your browser. And that actually was a delightful, cool experience. It was sort of like being out at brunch with your friends and you have the New York Times and somebody's like, oh my God. And you're like, what? And they're like, look at this story about Lena Dunham, you know, and God, isn't she annoying? And yes, she is. And people pass the thing around. So you could basically all be on like a story about Lena Dunham and be like, my God, that show is infuriating. So there's something there. I applaud the people who are working on it. Like working on VR today is like working on the web before there was broadband, but broadband was like kind of right there. That's what it feels like to me, is like the web in 98, 99, and it's like, can you guys hold on? Can your companies make it 4 or 5 years from now for when broadband arrives? Because let's face it, even if, you know, everybody starts buying these things, you know, in the next couple of years, the apps are going to have to catch up. And, you know, this is, if you take on VR right now, you're taking on a 5 to 10 year journey.
Sure.
And it's going to be like modest number of people, like you're saying, hundreds or thousands of people. You know, most web pages you go to will be empty.
Right.
So it's going to take a little while for that.
Sure.
But it's going to get interesting. So I applaud you. Good question.
Thanks.
We're getting creative with the setups here.
Okay.
Jeff's going to talk you through.
Okay, Jeff. Welcome.
Hi. My name is Jeff Fries from Limelight.
Carmelo, how are you?
And it's a pleasure to meet you, Jason.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Jeff.
Now, what would you do if you could see anywhere in the world in real time? Or what would you do if you could see an event like the Baltimore riots from someone who's actually there instead of watching it through CNN reporter?
Okay.
So before...
Do you want me to answer that question, or is that a hypothetical?
So this is... I want you to visualize this scenario, and then I'm going to walk you through the app. I'm going to ask the question, then we'll walk you through the app.
Got it.
So we're a brand new app. We just got on the App Store last week. We have about 350 users, and our main challenge is organic growth.
Did you name the app yet?
It's called Limelight.
Limelight is the name of it. Okay.
And so what my question is, how can we fuel organic growth more quickly with our app?
Okay, so can you show me what the app does?
Sure.
Is it Periscope for riots?
Possibly so, but we're going to be pictures. So I'll show the group while he's showing Jason. So what we have is a map here, and it's kind of small to see, so I apologize. So each of these circles represents groups of users. The bigger and darker their circles is the higher the concentration of users in that space. So Melo's showing that same exact thing to Jason right now. And what our users can do...
Okay, hold on a second. This is super clever. So I'll tell you what you do. It shows you a map. It shows you 20 people, you know, are in Mountain View and 15 are in Atherton and 10 are in Palo Alto. And you say, wow, I want to see what's going on in Atherton. The Atherton riots are just crazy because it turns out Fraiche is out of ice cream. There's just no yogurt left in the valley and the white people are rioting.
That would truly be terrible.
They're like, there is no organic frozen yogurt. I am going to just I'm going to throw a trash can through a window. And so you click on that group of 15 people and you say, show me what's up. So it's a reverse Periscope. if I opt into this, then you can ask me to turn on my phone to show you what's going on. Did I get that right?
You got that exactly.
I got it exactly right. Now, I can do that anonymously as well. So if I'm sitting there with my phone at Fraiche and somebody says, hey, would you take a photo of the Fraiche riots of 2015? I can be like, yes, I will, but it's going to be dangerous. And I can fire up my Samsung S6 Note and in perfect HD clarity share the video.
Actually, before you
people
go on
running out with figs.
Before you go on too much
Shaved
further,
dark chocolate.
Later this year, you'll be able to fire up your Samsung Galaxy Note 6 and do that. Right now, we're on the iOS store.
Okay, that's fine. But anyway, so what's really interesting about what I like about this is a really good idea. Whose idea is this? Your idea or his?
It was our co-founder Sonny's idea.
Okay, so it's Sonny's idea. He's the third co-founder that you guys cut out, like the Snapchat guys did.
No, he's Eduardo.
What's that?
He's Eduardo.
He's your Eduardo.
Yeah,
okay, so you redid the cap table and you boxed him out. Great.
Pretty much, yes.
All right. Well, you're gonna fit right in here in Silicon Valley. This is a great idea because everybody's got their phone on them all the time, and I wouldn't mind getting somebody to say like, hey, can you go videotape this for me? There was a really interesting trend called crowdsourcing a couple of years ago, about a decade, and everybody was enamored by this, and crowdsourced journalism was going to change everything, and it didn't. Nobody really got into crowdsourced journalism. Everybody kept talking about Oh My News and this and the Wikipedia. It never worked. And CNN iReports. This stuff never really worked. And what you've built could actually work as a journalism platform, especially if you got CNN to adopt this and say, if you turn on your phone, when we ask you to and go ask you to, we're going to give you $100 to do it per 15 minutes. Because for them, paying $100 for 15 minutes worth of live video from the riots or whatever would be easy. This is a great idea.
So we've got 22 journalism colleges that are going to pilot for us in the fall.
All right, now you go back to the microphone over here so we can hear.
So what he said for everybody was we have 22 journalism colleges that are going to be piloting this for us in the fall, and that'll give us plenty of time to grow our user base so that they'll be able to create that relevant content.
Okay, do you have a question for me?
So my question was, how do we fuel our growth more organically, more quickly is my question.
Okay, so number one, have you raised money for this company yet?
Completely bootstrapped.
It's completely bootstrapped. So the number one thing you want to do is have a really good angel investor involved at a very reasonable valuation who could add a lot of value and amplify the value proposition. That's just table stakes. Now, once you get that person locked in, everything will get easier. No, it's a really good idea. And what I think we should do is go to CNN, the New York Times, Huffington Post, whoever it is, and say, or if it was me, this is what I would do. I would go to CNN, I would go to Fox, and I would go to Huffington Post and everybody else, and I'd say, hey, listen, we need a partner for this. Would you like to partner with us? Limelight's a terrible name. We got to get a new name. It's fine. Limelight Networks or Limelight Networks exists, and Limelight is more like celebrity stuff, although TMZ might very much like this too. So there's actually, that's another one to put on the list. I would go to all them and say, listen, we made this. It's amazing. We want to have a launch partner. We're going to give you a 6-month exclusive. You'll be the only publication that has it. We just need $250,000 for the pilot. And you'll have a 2-year exclusive in your vertical. So if it's TMZ, we're going to give you a 2-year exclusive for gossip. And we just need $250,000 a year for this, $20,000 a month. That'll pay for everything. Competitors won't have it. And then you go to everybody else and you just work them against each other until somebody writes a check. And then you don't need to have too much funding. And they'll amplify it for you because you download the app powered by TMZ. So you white label it for TMZ, and it's TMZ powered by Limelight, or it's Limelight, and TMZ is just the top person, and they can put their requests up there. We need people to go to Mr. Chow's. We need people to go to the Taylor Swift concert. We need people to go here. We're looking for footage from these places. If you agree to go, we'll give you $25, and if we use your footage, we'll give you $250, right? I mean, this could be huge. And nobody's ever done this really, not that I know of. People have done these iReport things to like solicit and then pay bounties. And there's actually a photo agency or two now that are crowdsourcing like, hey, somebody go here and take a picture of this, we'll give you $10. So the photography place has done that. But what you've got is like this combination of like a reverse periscope or a reverse meerkat. And that's crazy awesome. So fuck the schools. Like we should just go right to the top and go right to the news organizations, and they'll tell us immediately if they want it or not. But can you imagine for somebody who's covering New York City or Los Angeles, like LA Times, and then you can give exclusives by region. So you go to LA, let's say you do it in San Francisco. It's like San Francisco Examiner and these other 5 places that cover San Francisco. Who wants the exclusive tool to use this? Boom. Okay, we know the buses are there's people who are blocking the buses, or beta breakers is going on. We need to have live coverage. Come here for beta breakers, live coverage. If you get naked people or people pouring out, if you get cops busting people, we'll give you $50 for that.
That's actually on our news feed. We have a photo of that. If you download the app, you'll be able to see it.
And the app is called Limelight Mobile. Let's talk later. Jack, you get this guy's number. Let's have coffee with these guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Very good. That's a really good idea.
Okay, Justin, you're up.
All right. Tough act to follow, buddy.
Question from Justin.
Question? Okay, that's easy. Hey now.
So my question, I was at the
nice and close to the microphone.
I was at the On-Demand conference yesterday.
Was that any good? Who's the best speaker? I heard the speakers weren't prepared. Oh, Shervin.
Yeah,
he's
a great story from coming from
Sure.
So
Shervin, as we know, was the B round investor for Uber.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Gurley was the A round investor, and I was the angel investor.
And that's exactly what my question's about.
Okay, go ahead.
So the question that I have, because you were early investor in Uber, what are the key properties that you look for, and also Thumbtack as well?
Yeah.
What are the key properties you look for in a marketplace on-demand startup? And kind of the follow-up from that, was there any reservations with Uber because it was kind of a luxury niche in the beginning?
It's a very astute observation. So taking it backwards, yeah, it was a niche for Lincoln Town Cars in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And when Travis showed it to me, I knew Travis for probably 10, 15 years. I knew him since his first company, Scour.
Okay.
And then I knew him at Red Swoosh. So there was no reservation in investing in him. And I typically invest in people,
right?
Then execution, then market. That's how I invest. That's the opposite of most investors. But I think each investor goes to what their strength is. Mm-hmm. So there are people like Bill Gurley or Chamath who are really good with quant stuff, and then there are people like me who are really good at reading people and suspending disbelief, right, and writing a check when there's a 95% chance of failure. And in fact, I kind of love those odds, kind of like the Han Solo of angel investors. Like, don't tell me the odds. Let's just go and see if we can make this thing, let's land in the worm.
Totally.
Sure, that's a good idea. Let's go right into the, asteroid field. Great. Right. What could go wrong? So I kind of like those. Okay. The trench run, like it's a 1 in a million shot. Yeah. Death Star. You getting any of these Star Wars references?
I'm getting all of them. No.
Work with me here.
No.
Okay, so anyway, I like that shit. I like the 1 in a million shot because if you do blow up the Death Star, it's pretty epic. Okay. Right? Chances are you're not going to blow it up, but when you do, then you become famous and you get a lot of money, and it's like it's a big reward. So when I saw that it was only Lincoln Town Cars, I was like, yeah, this could be. Nobody ever knew that Uber could be as big as it is.
Right.
I don't think even Travis knew, because there's a famous episode of This Week in Startups where I say to him, I think this could be $1 billion company. And he goes, you think so? And I say, I actually think this could actually hit $1 billion. Proving once again that nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about. Like, I'm the 4th or 5th investor, third, fourth. I didn't know how big it could be. Nobody knows. So you don't actually have to know. What you have to know is that the person is passionate and intelligent and executing at a high level. This is my theory. Mm-hmm. Because if you're executing at a high level today, what are the chances of you showing up tomorrow and executing at a low level? It's very low.
Yeah.
It'd be like, if you're Gordon Ramsay and you could cook the scallops tomorrow, what are the chances you forget how to cook scallops? No. 0. I mean, unless you get hit by a bus or something tragic. Now, if you can't cook the scallops now, you burn the scallops, and then I give you $25,000 or $250,000. What are the chances that $25,000 or $250,000 can make you cook scallops perfectly tomorrow? Low.
Yeah.
Probably 0. So execution is everything. That's why I always tell people, like, the design is not good, or the design is good, or the design is or the design needs improvement, the UX needs improvement, or the name sucks. Because those are the little details that actually add up in an investor's mind. I know this because I was on the other side of the table for most of my career, and I watched them, and I always noticed that they like, the name, what about the name, and what about the design, and what about the mechanic, and like,
a little bit more than the idea.
Yeah, you have to be able to prove a certain amount of craftsmanship, right?
Yeah,
and
or
so,
both.
Very good. So I didn't really need to think too much about that. And Home Hero is another one that I invested in. That's a marketplace for elder care.
Okay.
And so they're Uber of elder care, if you will. So it's very hard to find somebody to take care of mom or dad or grandma and grandpa for $20 an hour, $30 an hour. And you hire them off Craigslist. You don't know who they are. They don't show up. They quit. It's just hard if you've ever been through that. It's a nightmare. So they just took all those pain points, just like Uber did, and they were like, okay, what are the top 10 problems with getting somebody to take care of grandpa? Oh, okay. You have to find somebody. Okay. You have to interview them. Okay, well, we're going to put a video up there. We're going to interview them. We're going to kick them off the system if their ratings are low. So now the hardest part is gone.
Right.
So the 2 hours you were going to spend, or 10 hours trying to find somebody, are gone. You've got somebody right here. Okay, now billing, now taking a picture, now giving me a report back, now knowing that you checked in at location and checked out on time and that I'm actually paying you for the amount you worked. They start solving all those problems, right? But when I met the team over there, Kyle and his partner, they were executing at such a high level, and their detail and their craftsmanship was so high. I was like, wow, you guys are neophytes to the space. You don't know anything about this, but you're executing at a high level. Perfect, right? So if you can execute at a high level, then it's going to go well. And with these two-sided marketplaces, you do have to learn how to balance getting demand on both sides. But if you execute well and you solve the problems that exist, that's just a matter of money and time. So the Home Hero team and Uber, they have to find drivers. They have to find people who take care of the elderly, the caretakers.
Right.
And once they get that dialed in, they know how to get people onto the platform. They learn how to pick the good ones and get rid of the bad ones. The supply side. The demand side's pretty easy. You just
people are getting older every day, right?
Yeah. So these marketplaces, I think, are largely about execution and doggedness. So the folks from Home Hero and the folks from Uber, or even Thumbtack, Thumbtack went like this for 18 months because they didn't have it dialed in correctly. And when Marco showed me the product for the first time, anybody here ever used Thumbtack, by the way? Raise your hand if you have. See, this is a really great moment. Everybody will raise their hand in 2 years. It's literally 10 of the 150 people in the room have used it, 10% maybe. It'll be everybody. This is very much like Uber in the early years because it's such a better product. But in the beginning, it wasn't a perfectly perfect product. It was marginally better than Angie's List, or maybe as good, maybe not as good, depending on who you asked, or maybe as good as Yelp, maybe as not. But I saw Marco was executing really well, and his parents had given him money, and nobody else would. It's a perfect situation for me.
Right.
Great, nobody believes in you. I want to be the guy who believes in you. I want to give you the first check when people are not willing to. That's kind of my thing. So I was like, okay, you're executing. I see all these little points of execution, and his best point of execution was, we're going to check that this person who's going to work at your house, the handyman or the whoever it is, the gardener, the painter, we're just going to make sure they have an address. Yeah. It's how are you going to make sure they have an address? Well, we make them give us their driver's license, and then we email them a postcard. And if they get the postcard, they put the code in the postcard into the computer, and then we verify that they received the mail there. So at the very least, they received mail there, or they beat up the postman as he was delivering that postcard on that day and got the code, right?
They're a real person.
Yeah. So I was like, wow, that's a really fascinating thing that somebody put some craftsmanship into. And so it made it really easy for me. Because if I see you can make those little tweets, you actually saw it here,
right,
with the last company, Limelight, with a terrible name. It was like, holy shit, this name is terrible. But
you take the journalism students, you take it to the next level. Just go to the top.
But you can see the craftsmanship there. Oh, here are the people who are online in Palo Alto. Click on it. Okay, now ask them to turn their microphones on. And I was looking at the app that Carmelo was showing me, and I was like, wow, this app looks pretty good. And they got the circles right. That was actually what I noticed. The circles were right. Because as a device in the user interface, having a bunch of people scattered around on the map would be very hard to press.
Yeah.
But if you bundle them together and you say there's 16 people in Mountain View when you click it, or in the valley, and you click it because you have San Francisco on the map and it opens up, and now it's like, oh yeah, there's 6 in Atherton, 7 over here, this many in San Jose, and then I click them and then I see them. That saves me from pinching and zooming. So somebody, Carmelo, right? So Mello, or somebody on the team, actually thought about that issue?
That was our CTO, Jonathan.
Oh, the guy you guys shut out of all the money. Are you going to shut him out too? Good, I'll invest. If you have that cutthroat nature, I'll invest. I'm looking for people who will be that cutthroat. No, I wouldn't actually. So anyway, it's just that little bit of craftsmanship, right? And when you see that, at least for this angel investor, that makes it so much easier for me because you thought about it. Little things mean a lot.
Great.
To the right investors. Is that a good answer?
That's an unbelievable answer for the stuff that I'm working on. It makes me...
What are you working on? I'm curious.
The company that I have is called Send.
Send. S-E-N-D.
S-E-N-D.
See, that's good. That's bold. You don't have send.com, but you have the chutzpah.
Yeah, we'll get it.
You have the chutzpah to actually call your company Send.
Yeah.
You have getsend.com, GoSend.
Join Send.
Perfect. I love it. So you know branding. You should work with the Limelight guys and get them a brand.
Yes.
They're making the huge mistake of like, what domain's available and what can we get the, I know how you guys made this name up. You're like, what can we get the Twitter handle, the Instagram handle, and the domain name for? And we'll call it that. And it's like, it's okay, you're good engineers, but you're terrible at branding. He's just like, fuck it, I'm calling it Send.
Well, we actually had about...
the domain's not available? That handle's not available? I'll figure some shit out. Don't worry about it. I'll fake it till I make it. What does Send do?
So Send provides on-demand personal assistance for anyone.
Like Zirtual?
No, physical, real life. So in the
exec.
Except exec did one thing wrong. Exec
here we go.
would enter into your house. They'd walk your dog. They'd clean your apartment. They'd do whatever. We do everything up until the front door. So if you need a prescription picked up, dry cleaning, anything in the real world, we
like
save
a
that
Postmate.
time. Except Postmates only delivers food.
Gotcha. See, this is like the real interaction, and he's actually holding up to the barrage of questions. Let's see if he can continue. So how much do these people cost per hour?
Right now, we charge $10 for delivery within 2 hours.
$10 for delivery in 2 hours. So $10 per hour or $10 per half hour?
The people, it's like Uber Pool. They're doing multiple jobs at one time.
Got it.
So we can charge a lower amount to the average person because it's your package.
So you're running errands
exactly
for people for $10. So how is it different than a bike messenger company or a messenger company?
Because none of those companies have technology, and none of them are investing in the logistics of figuring out who's the closest driver, who can get it done on time, and then being able to tweak those things. Because for some places, we have a pharmacy that's a client of ours. They don't care when it's picked up. They want to make sure it's delivered within 2 or 3 hours, and so we can tweak our algorithm.
So your customer is the pharmacy or the consumer?
We have.
Or not sure.
We started out going directly for businesses, and businesses are unbelievable customers. They're very valuable, but they're almost impossible to find at scale. And so what we're finding is consumers started hacking our system and just using us as their personal assistant. And so instead of fighting against that, we're just looking at them as our fastest growing customer segment and go with that.
So here's what I can tell you. Number one, you're presenting the idea with credibility. So when I was talking before about credibility, if you can match that with some craftsmanship, and I look at the product and go, hey, looks really well done. The design's great. The UX is great. Then you add clients, people who are paying, who are giving you a high net promoter score and who like the product. Now you're really on that road to getting funded because you're confident. You've got customers, right?
Right.
Okay, here we go. And you're credible in terms of the ability to speak about the marketplace. I can't tell you how many times I'll ask somebody like, so, you're in home delivery, so who are your competitors? And they're like, well, we really don't have competitors because Grubhub sucks. And I'm like, yeah, Grubhub sucks. What about Bento, Sprig, Spoon Rocket, and Munchery? And they're like, yeah, I guess they're competitors. I'm like, well, when I asked you about competitors, you didn't bring up the 4 direct competitors. Just lost your credibility. Just went like this.
And every one of those places could potentially be one of our clients because they need extra people.
Yeah, so that's the thing with the infrastructure. That's actually a very interesting point. It's the overflow. So you're in the zone. There's a lot of people who are potentially going to compete with you. I don't know if you saw the news about Uber in New York is doing runs.
Yeah, they do Uber Rush over there.
Yeah, they have Uber Rush, but there's also a car. There was a breaking story a couple of days ago where they got some information that like some of the high-end stores, Mack Weldon, who makes this T-shirt and other stuff, were using them to deliver same day and surprise people with better delivery.
Yes.
Right. So I think Uber will be in that business, or according to this report, they are in that business.
Yeah, retail products are an interesting thing, and there's a lot of places that will deliver food, retail products, and we sit in that space of everything else. Things that you can't necessarily you can't buy from counters.
So I'm an investor in Zirtual. I'm an investor in Uber. I'm an investor in Bento.
Yeah.
So I love this space, obviously.
Yeah.
I like the assistant space with Zirtual.
Yeah.
And I like the on-demand space with Uber and Bento. So I would keep working on it, and I'd find your niche. There's something there. And I think the way you pitch it, like an executive assistant, maybe isn't the best way to pitch it.
Okay.
Maybe, hey, we'll make your business on demand, and we provide that on demand for any business.
Yeah,
so if you have a business that wants to be on demand, we'll do that for you.
Great.
And that is a pretty interesting business because there is a company that does like basically like Uber in a box.
Right.
I don't know if you've seen that one.
Yeah.
Bento uses it. It's the technology. So you can basically pop up. And you don't have to build the map software or whatever, but they don't have the drivers. And the drivers are going to become the really interesting part of the supply chain. There's actually a startup that pitched me, and they were written about recently, that is managing a database of all the drivers. And then they're going to the drivers and saying, hey, there's a new company out there. It's called Bento. They're looking for drivers. If you complete 10 hours of work, they give you a $100 bonus. If you join, they give you a new phone, whatever. And they're basically not like a union, but more like a database of the drivers. So that when Lyft needs drivers or Sidecar or Bento or Sprig, they can go there and say, we need 7 drivers in Berkeley because we're moving to Berkeley. And we're looking for these things and we're willing to pay that amount. So there is going to be this on-demand economy is being under, as much as Uber has got a pretty epic valuation for a private company, there's a reason, which is it's fundamentally changing how we live.
We're getting stuff delivered the same day as table stakes now. People expect it. Amazon.
In San Francisco.
Well, I'm from Seattle, and right now it's really funny.
Where Amazon's based.
Yes, I have a lot of friends. If they don't get something the next day or the same day, like they're frustrated. In the same way you had the 12-minute Uber.
Right. It's a 1%er living in the 1% city problem.
Right.
The majority of cities in America, they haven't experienced this yet, which is why there's still such a huge opportunity.
Right.
So keep at it.
Okay.
Keep me informed. Let's hear it.
Thank you.
You're good. 1 or 2 more?
I think one more. We need to be out of the room.
Oh, we have to be out of the room. Okay, one more. This better be good, man. If you're batting cleanup, man, this better be good. I like the suit jacket. That's working.
What do you think New York's gonna go for playoffs next year?
This is good. The person you're talking.
Do you feel it's gonna be right there?
Yeah. So here's what's gonna happen with the Knicks. We're gonna get Marc Gasol, and so we'll have one of the top 3 centers in the league. We've already got the premier scorer in the league, and then there's this falling to 4 in the draft sucks, but there's a couple of amazing game-changing point guards in there, and so that makes us a playoff team, but probably like a 6, 7, or 8 playoff team. But the salary cap is rising, and all we need to do is have Russell Westbrook or Kevin Durant and that imploded team decide they want to have mercy on the city of New York and bring it a championship, and then we get the missing piece.
I think so. At least this year, Golden State's going to win, right? That's for sure.
Golden State's a lock.
All right.
They're guaranteed to win. Yeah.
So
anybody but LeBron.
So I think so my wife really hates you because you have taken way too much time from my life.
Good.
And, I think so. One of the favorite episodes I've seen is the guy who made Whisper, actually.
Oh yeah, Michael.
Yeah,
I'm an investor. Whisper is a great company.
And Secret as well, right?
He didn't make Secret,
right,
and I'm not an investor in Secret. Oh, you're just kidding. Good job. No, Secret, obviously, no secret that it was a bit of a disaster. Founders took out a bunch of money, which we all thought was perplexing. Usually if a founder sells shares in secondary, that happens when the company is successful in year 4 or 5. In this case, a bunch of us were talking when that happened a year ago and said, I think that's a bit of a tell, like a poker tell, that they don't believe in the long-term value of the company. And boy, was that prescient, right? Like they literally took $3 million each off the table. One of them, schmuck, bought a Ferrari. Which is like the stupidest thing you can do. Can you imagine you work for this guy and he's like, I'm selling some of my shares in month 7, but I just want to make sure I can afford my rent and my apartment. And then he shows up in a fucking Ferrari. Like literally I was talking to one of the venture capitalists who said like, I wanted to punch him in the face. And then Google comes out and says, this is fraud. Google Ventures guy. And then he sort of backed off it a little bit, but boy, was that felt like fraud. I mean, it felt like stealing, but these VCs, they enabled this bad behavior by wanting the deal so much they gave them $6 million in month 6 to buy some shares of the company. And then all the other employees go to work there for 2 years and they believe in the founder and the founders quit. One quits months after he gets the $3 million. The other one cuts and runs a couple of months after that. I mean, these guys are horrible people.
Got it.
Thanks for asking that.
No, I'm
Why did you get me started like that? Now, this clip is going to live in infamy. Jason hates the secret guys. Not that I hate the secret guys, but they're everything that's wrong with entrepreneurship. Okay.
So Big.
But by the way, when a founder is confident enough to hand his app and phone and not like, the shit's going to crash, so I'm going to keep it in my hand, that's a good sign.
All right. So
okay, this is
Ideator.
Ideator, okay.
Right, so
you're not winning any awards for the name, but it's okay. Here you go.
Big fan, Jason. I think so. I quit my job around like 5 months back, but you have been in my life for 14 months. All your podcast is pretty amazing. Trust me.
All right, it's getting a little creepy now. Let's talk about your product.
All right,
it's cool. It's cool. We'll take a selfie after this.
All right, so let me.
It's cool.
All right, let me just ask two questions.
I'm going to ask Chris Socket to retweet you. It's cool.
Let me just ask two questions before I'm going to start discussing what Ideator is. So we did the survey with around approximately 2,500 people across 6 different countries. So I'm going to ask you the same 2 questions.
Okay.
So today when I'm going to use the keyword professional network, easy answer, which product comes to your mind right now?
LinkedIn, of course.
Let's say if you need to get an answer for a question, which product comes to your mind? Right? When I say the word idea, which product comes to your mind?
Nothing. Why isn't there a network for ideas?
And that's what we are trying to resolve a problem right here.
Well played. So I guess the question is, does the world need a place for ideas?
Right.
And ideas, obviously. So there are some places, I will say. Challenge Post, which I'm an investor in, is doing sort of X Prize challenges for ideas to solve problems. You have the X Prize itself, which is outlining, hey, solar, education, reading, all these things, and they're putting up challenges with money and bounties for ideas to solve problems. You have the TED Big Idea. So there are people in the last decade.
Not for us.
But not for all of us.
Right.
And then the guy from Idea Lab, there's Quirky, which is a bunch of people crowdsourcing ideas for products. So there's an idea thing there. And then Bill Gross is doing an idea crowdfunding site from Idea Lab, where you saw this one where you put your idea up and then people work on it and maybe you get 5% of it if somebody else builds it.
Right.
And then there's open sourcing patents, which is another way of sort of putting the idea out there. So there are some people dancing around it, but I wouldn't think a normal civilian would know those companies.
Right, and totally agree, Jason. I think so. But the platform we are trying to create, right? It's all for pretty much for this crowd out there.
Okay.
Because
good-looking people.
I totally agree. I think so. All the platforms which you have mentioned, they exist, but the goal is on the product side. And when I really started working on this platform 14 months back, one of the key questions I asked, I spent like 2,100 hours on Google over the course of 14 months to find ideas in different industries out there. And one of my biggest problem was there is no one platform where, not the products, the ideas are product, people, process, tools, techniques, right? There is no product out there where I can go today and find all the ideas that's in the retail space. That's the first problem we are trying to solve. Number 2, one of the biggest concern what I had, like I've personally stayed in Germany, I've stayed in India, I've stayed in US. One of my concerns has always been these countries that do work in silos. Industries work in silos. There's no product. I can give like 15 minutes to all of you guys right now that you can go, let's say, finding top 10 ideas in China, in retail.
Yeah.
That's the problem we are trying to solve.
So I think you've set the stage that there's a market. Or potentially a need, or at least that there's something interesting here. So that's good. So now it comes down to mechanic. And what is the mechanic of the site? It looks to me like it's a feed.
Yep.
It's almost like Tumblr for ideas. So I'm scrolling through it and I see here how to board an airplane, the best way to board an airplane, and it's a video from Vox. So it's almost like Dig or Hacker News or Reddit. Is it Reddit for ideas where people put all the ideas in and catalog them?
I personally never use any product name because I think so the potential we are going with, maybe it's bigger than the other product as well.
Okay.
But our one-on-one only intention is just the word ideas in the product. When you come here, you're only going to get ideas from true consumers and professional consumers out there.
Okay.
So that's a key goal what we have. But in terms of what we're doing right now, number one, let's say if you share an idea for your startup right now, what we're going to do, we're going to find the right connections for you from different parts of the world, let's say China, let's say Germany. We're going to give you those connections with whom you can conduct a survey, you can discuss with them, you can get a feedback. Those guys could be future consumers as well.
Okay.
And that's the key goal, what we're trying to do.
Why would people participate in this?
The reason you're gonna, it's a two-sided market, right? Number one, how many startups are right there? I mean, if you really look at all of these guys, they want feedback. So many people came to this floor right now. The key point was getting a feedback. This product will allow you to get a feedback within, like, I mean, right now we are still a 7-week-old product right now. And this product will really allow you to get the feedback within 24 hours, maybe less, within 20 minutes right now. There is no product out there which will really allow to get the feedback at this pace. Number two, my wife personally is in travel as well, and she's been in travel for 6 years. And she always complains one thing, Anshul, there's no product online where I can go daily and I can find like ideas around hotels, ideas around travel.
It's interesting you say that, because the first category I went to in the app was travel, and I have to say it did suck me in. So you have the makings of something here. When I went to travel, I immediately saw somebody discussing for BART, why don't they color code the trains?
Yeah.
I've seen so many people get really confused that the BART map has colors for each line, but they don't correspond to the actual trains coming through. The line should be named with colors. So yellow line would be Millbrae, San Francisco Airport, Pittsburgh, Bay Point, etc. At the front of the train would have the color obviously displayed on a screen. I mean, in my idea, my better idea would be to actually paint the train the color. But that, I guess, gives you a problem with swapping them out. So they could do lighting and have LEDs that change the color of the lights.
Right.
My idea to reduce costs for frequent travelers. Airlines can create automated cabin luggage process to increase revenue. And it seems like some people are doing it for marketing. Hotels can save variable costs by following airline industry. If an airline is not able to sell airline tickets, then Air France connect with other blah, blah, blah. So I think some of the ideas will be pedantic and obvious to people who are in the industry. Like, they're going to bring up stuff that, like, yeah, of course we tried that, it didn't work, and here's why we don't do it, conflict interest, or it's against the law, or whatever. So there's something here. What you don't have yet is a business model, right? You don't have a viral component. And so what I would think about is those two things: is what is my business model and what is my viral component? And the viral component here really is, I think, if you could put challenges up and people could work within a framework, like, what are the 5 best, what are the 10 ways hotels could be better?
Right.
And then people could vote on them, and then somehow that could get back to hotel people, and hotel people could say, like, hey, we've listened to your concerns, and yes, we're going to make Wi-Fi free, or whatever it is.
Right.
So if it could actually promote change in the world, that would be super interesting. Like, for me, I would really, and I was actually talking to Elon Musk about this issue, I was like, why don't you have on the maps in Teslas the places that have Model S chargers? And he was like, stay tuned. But it would be really cool if the Tesla owners would lobby hotels to have electric chargers. So if somebody would just list the top 100 hotels in every city and then put which ones have chargers and which don't, and then when they don't have chargers, you could click a button that says, Jason Calacanis from San Francisco is requesting you put a charger in. He has a Model S. And all of a sudden, these hotel owners, when it hit 100, would get 100 requests in. That could be really powerful in actually promoting change in the world. So I would think about that piece of promoting change in the world, revenue, and those kind of opportunities.
Right. There's a part B of the product as well, which probably you didn't see, which is called idea boards. The part B is exactly what you mentioned. We're working with USF, the Berkeley, and what we're working is they have created their own space out there, and they're working on the ideation around that.
Great.
So part A versus B, though.
So the name needs to be better. The design needs to be a little bit better.
Okay.
But you're in an area that you're clearly passionate about, and you're speaking with knowledge, and you're learning. Okay. And it's wide open. So when I look at a space that's wide open and that people are dancing around, I don't actually see like, oh, it's a graveyard. I see like, oh, it's kind of it's undiscovered country, right? Like people have sort of wandered into California and they all died because they got killed by, whatever. But somebody will survive in California, and then, we're in Vegas and they'll open up the Mirage, or something. So don't be dissuaded by the fact that nobody's made it work. A lot of times when nobody's made it work, it means it's an opportunity, and maybe people have laid the groundwork for you to actually stand on their shoulders. And when you look at X Prize, you look at TED Ideas, there's something around the ideas that, could have impact. Of course, people don't want to give up their ideas because a certain group of people don't want to give up ideas. So there's another group that does want to give up ideas because they just want the world to be better.
Right.
So if you, to the extent you can tap into that group of people who are not looking to monetize their idea, they just want the world to not suck or to suck a little less, that would be really sort of powerful. You can keep it positive like that. How could this suck less?
Got it.
You know, how could this hotel suck less? How could, you know, getting on an airline suck less? How could airport lounges suck less? You know, some people are looking at airports and saying, hey, yeah, if we had really Class A food here and we had desks and we had power and we had Wi-Fi, it would be much more livable. Oh yeah, maybe we have a yoga room, and that's the international terminal SFO, and then all the other ones suck. Right. So obviously somebody's thinking about it, and what other ideas can they add to it that would make it better, right?
Right.
So the world needs ideas, and a global idea market is particularly interesting, I think.
Right. We just want to think about, like, the moment you think about ideas, you think about one product, and that's the vision what we have.
Yeah, and the way you get there is by having some mechanic that's viral and some business model that gives you the fuel to not go out of business.
Got it.
The reason LinkedIn has done so well is because they didn't go out of business. And I mean, it sounds crazy, but like when you run out of money and you go out of business, you don't get to work on the problem anymore, generally speaking.
Right.
You don't have as many people as resources. They added that. If you watch the Reid Hoffman episode, they didn't want to add the $5,000 a seat recruiter product. Their customers forced them to create this. So if there's a way for you to say to American Airlines, hey, we're going to let you sponsor the airlines and how to make it better section, and we're going to put your person there, and you're going to be the ambassador. Maybe you just sell the ambassadorship for airlines, hotels, whatever, and you say, this is a great way to interface with high-end customers who actually really care about your product.
Right.
And you get all the data, and your customer and your competitors don't. And your name's on the homepage, and your chief creative officer's on the homepage, and she gets to interact with people, and she gets the direct emails from people. And by the way, we're not going to give it to Virgin or Delta or US Airways. Only American gets it, right?
Got it.
So again, that, you know, using them to work against each other. And
got it. So hopefully next 2 years you're going to remember Ideator when you think about Ideator.
Yeah, I'll remember it if you come up with a better name.
All right.
This whole idea of dropping the vowels is very 2003, 2004. Let's, you know.
All right, I'll think
I literally think just calling it ideas, you know, talking about send, and just calling it idea something or idea.
Okay.
You know, or new ideas or, you know, better or something. Like better, PHA is the better app I invested in. They just call it better.
Okay.
And, you know, their hope is like they get to own that word over time, right? Find a word you can own over time.
Perfect.
Good job.
Let's
hear it. All right, this has been amazing. Great ideas. I'm really impressed.